my sweet little magnolias. Happy whatever day this finds you. I want to start a teaching on my new book, The 12 Gates of Healing. You can get it on Amazon, on Kindle, and in paperback. I'm also working on a hardcover edition that will include a workbook / journal within the pages of the book. Also, I realized after the paperback was published, I needed to put a trigger warning in there, and I didn't. And I don't know if now that it's been published and multiple copies have been sold, I don't know if I can change it without making it a second edition, blah, blah, blah. So I'm researching that, but I will do that on the hardcover edition. Now, this is, as it says on the cover, a 12-step spiritual guide to overcoming past trauma. So that's why there needs to be a trigger warning, because in the introduction, I get into what happened to me and why I took this healing journey for myself several times and why it's so important. And the introduction begins with why healing the inner child and past trauma is so important. Drama. It is drama, but it's trauma. And so I'll tell you a little bit. You can read it yourself in the book. You can get it, like I said, on Amazon in paperback or on Kindle, or you can wait another couple of days before I publish the hardcover edition that will include the workbook / journal. So let me just give you a basic rundown. I was adopted. I found out many, many years later when I found my birth family that my parents were both 15 when I was born. So I was put up for adoption. It was 1962. The people who adopted me had previously adopted a boy. We are not biologically related. And anyway, the people who adopted me were very wealthy, but they were also not good humans. And I know now that they were broken in their own ways. But the adoptive father was a pedophile and started with me at a very young age. He trafficked me to other men so that he could have other girls. He trafficked my brother for the same reason. I don't know if he ever abused my brother in that way or what. The abuse started when I was about 4 or 5, don't remember exactly, and stopped when I started menstruating at around the age of 11. And then the physical abuse ramped up. There's always been physical abuse ever since we were little children. And we were spanked, which was normal for the day. Back in the 60s, corporal punishment was very popular among parents and all adults. But it was worse than that. There was a lot more to it. And he was very arrogant, extremely intelligent. He was a hard disciplinarian, and our mother went right along with it, even joined in some of the beatings. When I was around 8 or 9, she discovered what my father had been doing to me because she caught him in the act. And instead of saving me, saving my brother, I guess, I don't know what motivated her to keep it quiet and act like nothing happened, except she started treating me like I was the other woman in her marriage. My father was psychologically, verbally, emotionally abusive. So was my mother. The physical abuse just ramped up. He used to, what my therapist has told me is waterboarding. He used to hold my head under the faucet while the faucet was running in the bathtub, and he'd let the bathtub fill up and hold my head from the back under the water, so that as the water filled up, and he was yelling and screaming at me, as the water filled up, I would begin to drown. I couldn't hold my breath any longer. And then he would pull my head up, and then he'd shove me back down again multiple times. Again, I don't know if he ever did that to my brother. I saw him punch my brother in the face multiple times. He would slap me. I mean, I don't really need to go into a whole lot of detail. I'm sure most of you can get the drift. So, when I was about 12, I began drinking heavily. So did my brother, right about the same age. So, before me, because he was older than me, but about the same age. He started drinking as well. I started smoking cigarettes. He started dipping. We were very well-liked family in our community. Everybody at church and in all our social gatherings thought we were just the best, cutest, most wonderful family ever, because we all wore masks when we went out in public. I can remember driving on our way to church and getting slapped and yelled at, and as soon as we pulled into the church parking lot, everybody just put on a smile. Yeah. Let's see, what else? I stole from my parents. I shoplifted at that age a lot. I never got into drugs, but I did drink a lot. I was sexually assaulted when I was around 14 by a cousin of one of my friends at the time. She was mentally slow, and I was forced to watch him assault her as well. I was date raped at the age of 15, and then again at the age of around 23. I tried to kill myself at least 8 times that I can remember. But, yeah. So all of that trauma caused me to be a huge mess. And if any of you have been through trauma that's similar, not as bad in your mind as what I went through, not as, or worse in your mind than what I went through, this book will help you. But remember, your trauma isn't any worse or better than mine, because to me it was awful, to you it was awful. There is no level of worth, if you want to put it that way, to trauma. It's just trauma, and it causes horrible effects. It affects us all terribly. And anyway, I also developed an eating disorder. I began binging and purging, and then when I couldn't purge anymore, I stopped eating entirely and began obsessive exercising. I had a lot of problems. Around the age of 16 was the first time I ran away. I ran away again at 17 and again at 18, and I ended up getting married that time. I was trying to escape my family home. I gained a lot of weight because I was eating whatever I wanted without my mother controlling me. That's another aspect of my mother's abuse I didn't really talk about. Did I? So in the book, I talk a little bit about something my mother did that caused my food problems. She was obsessed with my weight. I was kind of a chubby child. She had been a model. She had the tiniest waist. She was really, really beautiful. She kind of, in her young years, looked like a young Elizabeth Taylor. And she was beautiful until the day she died at 94. Not even kidding. But she was obsessed with my weight. And so from the time I was an infant, she fed me daily laxatives until the age of about 12, when I finally told a doctor, and the doctor put a stop to it. He really let my mother have it. So, yeah. But it caused a lot of physical problems that I'm still dealing with today. And it caused my food problems. She would take food out of my mouth. Like if I was going up to my mouth with a fork of food and she thought I'd had enough, she'd yank it out of my mouth. If she didn't get the food but just the fork, she'd make me spit it out. The whole family would have a big meal and I would be forced to eat a half a grapefruit or a salad. They would have dessert. I would have a bowl of cottage cheese and fruit. And I was 120 pounds. Same height I am today. Huge boobs, huge butt, hips, tiny little waist, and she thought I was fat. She had no boobs. She had no butt. So, go figure. But anyway, I was very abused. And all of that abuse made me a crazed lunatic. Not even kidding. I was out of my mind. And I talk about the fact that I got married at 18, like I said earlier. I was divorced in less than a year. I got married again at, I think, 21. Yeah, had my first baby at 22 when I was pregnant with him. I quit drinking and never went back to it. So I've been sober now. He's 40, so I've been sober now for 40 plus years. And his father was an alcoholic, a drug addict, and very physically abusive, verbally abusive as well. And my first husband, we were just too young. We beat each other up. Yeah. I did not know how to have a healthy relationship. I did not know my value or my worth. And so I was always drawn to men who were a lot like my father. Overbearing, controlling, abusive. By the time I was 24, I got pregnant and married my third husband and had the first of 3 children with him. So I have 4 biological children. But I wanted to be loved and I wanted to be accepted and I craved that. Like it was the driving force of my life because I'd never had it, right? And some of you who have gone through similar things, you probably understand very well that craving to be accepted, to be loved for who you are. And he was a serial cheater. He didn't hit me. That was a bonus. He wasn't an alcoholic or a drug addict. That was a bonus. And he made a decent living most of the time. So by the time I had the third child, second with him, I was able to be a stay-at-home mom, which was really important to me. Probably because my mother was a stay-at-home mom. I don't know. But the rejection that I felt from him every time I caught him cheating just further cemented the thought that I was worthless in my mind. Plus, he was very narcissistic and controlling, much like my own father. And I changed myself entirely to be what he wanted me to be. And I had gained a lot of weight because I was so unhappy. And I wasn't binging and purging, and I wasn't starving myself and exercising like a crazy, I don't know what. I gained a lot of weight. And my mother told me the reason why he was cheating on me is because I was so fat. My father told me one time that I had this beautiful voice and I could probably be a very successful singer, except I needed to lose weight. Yeah. So, after 25 years of marriage with this third husband, 21 years, I guess, I met someone else. I had an affair. I took off, left him, took my girls. My boys were already grown. And, yeah. So that guy was an alcoholic, a drug addict, and a serial cheater too. Pattern repeated itself many times, over and over and over and over again. And the reason was because I never healed. Even though I'd been in therapy, I'd been in the church, I was in the cult of Christianity for a long time. I went to Bible college. I was pretty big deal, in our little town church. And anyway, I found my entire birth family, found out I had multiple sclerosis, caught my husband in a long-term relationship. It wasn't just a one-night stand. And yeah, that was kind of it for me. That was it for me. And that was 2003. By 2008, I had left my husband and moved a long way away. But in finding my birth family, I discovered that I was Celtic. My ancestral heritage is Celtic. And because I had left the church, I was searching for something. And so I started researching Celtic religion and practices and faith. I discovered Wiccan, I discovered paganism, and that put me on the path where I am currently on, the path I still walk. And it brought me to a place where I am today, where I am healed. Not completely, because it's a lifelong process, but even though my healing journey began in the Christian church, it was very stifled. And when I became spiritual, I learned so much more. And I realized that my desire of being a teacher was not of my own making. It was what I was created to do and what I was created to be. Not an English teacher or a music teacher like I thought, but an actual spiritual teacher. And so that's me, and that's why I began this journey. And hurting people need to learn how to heal. It doesn't come to us naturally. We need to be taught. We need help along our journey. So about, 6 months ago, my spirit team dropped it in my heart that I needed to write this book. And they described it to me as a 12-step program like AA has to help people overcome alcoholism, or NA or OA or any of them. They described it to me as that, but they called it gates. You have to go through these different gates. And that's where the idea began, the 12 gates of healing. A 12-step spiritual guide to overcoming past trauma. And so that's where we are. Let's get into the book now, The Healing Journey. It's going to be a ride, y'all. It's going to be quite a ride. So let's talk about why the gates metaphor. A gate is a hinged barrier used to close an opening in a wall, fence, or a hedge. And when I think about this journey, we have had a gate that has been a barrier to our healing. And that gate was lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. We did not know we needed it, and we did not know how to get through it, right? But it has now become a portal. And a portal is a doorway or gate or other entrance, especially a large and imposing one, that we can actually walk through. And it will transport us to a new place. So that's why well, my spirit team told me about the gates, but that's why I felt it was an appropriate analogy, is the gates, the gates, the gates, you know? So the journey to find and heal all of our trauma, it's long, it's sometimes very difficult, and we need to take it step by step or gate by gate. And it makes it easier to take a little piece of it at a time. You know, you're not going to eat in one sitting every bit of food that you're going to eat from now until the day you leave the planet. You couldn't possibly do it. I mean, we just had a holiday feast. I couldn't even eat a full plate of food after cooking all day because I'd been taste testing everything and I was pretty full to begin with, you know. We cannot take in everything all at once. Our stomachs would burst. We would die. It's the same with healing. It's got to be taken in bites, in meals, in gates. So the first gate is the acceptance gate, talking about accepting that this all happened to you and that you need to heal. The optimism gate, looking at it as an opportunity, a good opportunity. The decision gate, deciding to take the journey. The examination gate, examining your past and why you need to take this journey. The record gate, making a physical, written down record of what happened to you so you can better address it. It's kind of like a to-do list for healing. The accountability gate, figuring out what your part has been as you've been an adult. When you're a child, you have no control. But as you've been an adult, the choices you've made, the things you've done, you have to take your accountability for those things, realizing that the trauma is what caused you to do that or be that or say that, but accepting the responsibility of it. The forgiveness gate, forgiving the abusers. Yeah, I know you don't want to do that. But also forgiving yourself. The inner child healing gate, the adult child healing gate, because it's two different kinds of trauma. The discovery gate, discovering who you can be, you know, now that you're healing your trauma. The self-discipline gate and the spiritual awakening gate. And most of them probably sound pretty large and imposing to you, especially that forgiveness one. But you'll find your way. And this isn't something you have to do in a week or a month or a year even. Take it at your own pace. Do it at your own speed. If you are tired of being easily triggered, take the journey, work the program. If you are fed up with feeling like you don't belong, take the journey and work the program. If you are curious about what your life could have been like had you not been traumatized in the first place, work this program, take this journey, because you will find out. Just like I did, I discovered I was meant to be a teacher. If you are worn out, tired, because you're angry all the fucking time, you need to do this program. You need to take this journey. If you are tired of feeling down and depressed all the time, if you have no meaning in your life, if you want to know what your life's purpose is, work the program. And I'm only saying that because I care about people. Even if I've never met you, even if I never meet you, I care about you because we're all together in this. And as people heal, the energy of the collective rises. The only way to change things in the world that are not good is to begin with changing ourselves, healing, overcoming our trauma and our past issues, and becoming the person that we're supposed to be, raising our vibration, which then raises the vibration of the collective, you see. So that's why you take this journey. That's why you dive into this book. It's not easy. It really isn't. But it is so worth it. I struggled for many years before I realized this way. I struggled. I was miserable. I even have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, chronic migraine, irritable bowel syndrome, trigeminal neuralgia. I've developed supposedly neuropathic itching on my face and in my head. That's why I'm always scratching during my videos, because it itches all the time. And science has proven that childhood trauma often leads to adult chronic illness. It's proven. And I believe that I will be healed, that I am in the process of healing, because I've done the spiritual healing, the emotional healing, the mental healing, and now it's time for the physical healing to manifest. Damn it. Yeah. When you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, when you are finished with being a victim, when you are ready to learn how to be the victor, this is the journey you need to take. Yeah. So, if you can get the book, great. If you can't, send me an email and tell me where to send your free copy. Don't take advantage of me, because that's just an unhealed person's way of being. And you don't want to be that. And karma is a bitch, especially when you fuck with a witch. So, if you are financially able to get the book, it's not that expensive. The paperback is less than $15. I can't remember what the Kindle is. And the hardcover will be around $20, because it's going to be more expanded. It'll have the journal and the workbook with it. But it's not that expensive. But if, even at those inexpensive prices, you cannot afford it, email me. Give me your contact information. Tell me what you want, and I will send you a free copy. I'm not in this to make money. I need to have the money to recoup my costs, but I am not in it to become rich by any stretch of the imagination. I'm in it to help people. That's my goal, and that's my motivation. So, I'll put my email address here on the screen for you, and if you're in a situation where you can't afford the book, just email me and I will send you one. Okay? Next video will be delving in to the beginning of the journey. Love y'all. See you next time.